I'm looking at how to do design critiques. So in the past few days over the weekend break, I've been studying how to. I've been looking at how to write. Firstly, how to properly write fiction, a piece of fiction, and following what I've learned in the past few days, in the past months of doing this 100-day video challenge, I've learned that I should form a habit of writing. I should form a habit of writing anything and just continuously critiquing myself, continuously improving my writing. For that, I thought about um, yesterday's session where I had gone back to this website called Scribophile. The Scribophile is where you have your written work, written piece of fiction, be reviewed, be critiqued on, and they actively advocate doing critiques because when you do critiques, you can learn from uh, the way you're doing critiques, the way you structure your critiques, and the way I've structured my critique. So I've done an outline of how I would do my critique. And I believe it's a good practice as well to compare your critique with somebody else's critique. That way, you can see whether you are identifying the same things. So, this work by this guy. So Everett Thomas has written his article, and I've done a critique. On his story. So and somebody else also did a critique of their story. So it's nice that I made this critique, and now you see somebody else also make a critique. I remember we are trained in usability testing. In usability testing, one of the best things that we are trained, that we've learned in usability testing is you need to test with 5 users to identify improvements for your design. Now, I'm taking this same concept to doing a critique. The idea being, if one person had seen a problem with your work, if it's fine. If 3 people found the same number of problems in your work, then there's something to think about. And as you increase the number of people, ideally 5, because when you do your 5, it slopes down the number of things that people see here. For instance, when it gets to 3 people, you would theoretically get about 75% mistakes in your design. That's how this works. And you would apply the same thing when you're writing now. If same people, at least 3 people identify the same problem in your written work, then you can be sure that there is a problem in that aspect of that written work. Going back now, I had gone through um, the critique that I made, I compared it with Elizabeth Reber's critique on the same article. And there were indeed a couple of things that we were similar in the way we identified it. Not empowered, definitely. So I also commented on this part, for instance. This is what is part of the original article, or the original story. And this is a commentary of the critiquer, the person who critiqued. I did the same thing. I also highlighted this and made a critique. I consider mentioning she lives with her parents earlier, sing with me. I also noticed this. She mentioned it was an awkward fragment. I asked, so she was written like wearing grubby sandals, which in a way we identified that the same thing. Um, the way she critiqued it was pretty direct on how she was thinking and how she was reading what she saw. The way I critiqued it was a bit more deliberate, and she identified the typing errors, the grammar corrections will be fixed or repetition of text. I was more deliberate in terms of uh, based on what I had read before in some of the books, identifying which is something I mentioned yesterday, the goals, the motivations and conflict, which is a standard pattern in character development, character writing. Uh, so she did not, this uh, critiquer, person who critiqued, did not go through that. I was more deliberate in looking at that, and I was also deliberate at looking into how logical it seemed to me. And I gave some feedback in terms of how I felt the logic would be and how much drama, how much tension could be built. Um, so this led me to think about the value of doing a critique. I was the other day I was in interviewed by Jen, a colleague who was also in the user experience research field, for some user experience related research, and we dropped a nugget of wisdom. She dropped a nugget of wisdom indicating that the critique process is really important as well in other aspects of work. That's how you get feedback. This made me think a bit more about having this design critique process embedded in my team as well and in my life as well. How do I do a critique of what I've done, what I've been working on? So yesterday I started again doing some writing practice. I've been doing some fiction writing practice here. And what I intend to do is continuously develop this and have at least 3 to 5 people take a look at it and how it can be improved along the way. I mean, was the text too simple, too complex? Was it an easy read? What would have made it read easier? The way and that made me also look at a couple of novels that I was in my Kindle. I had reviewed one of the nice books that I like in my Kindle is Blood Song by, I believe it's Anthony Ryan. There you go. This book is pretty. I reviewed how he had described the first scene, the first 3 scenes in the book, and I examined how flowing it was, how flowing it felt for me as a reader. It was clear. I would like to achieve some sort of that level of flowing um, thoughts when I write. You can only do that through practice and probably doing a lot more critiques. The more I critique, the more I think about the way I write and how I can improve myself as well, my writing style as well. So this is a design critique. Let me highlight this and put it in my hypothesis. Annotate. What is a design critique? What do design critiques do? Critique. Um, why critique? This is nice. Into my mind. Quotas, creating musical agenda design critique. And there's a formal asking the right question. Asking the right questions. This is nice. How does this make the user to accomplish the expectations? These scholars. This is nice. Examples of questions. How to ask. How to ask questions in design critique section. Design critique. So these are some things I can apply as well in my writing, in my critique writing, in writing critique. Documentation, following up, repeat objectives, tell a story. Not agreeing on personas beforehand. For scheduling too long critique sessions, taking feedback personally. Improves by incorporating multiple perspectives. It's a common theme in my design work to incorporate multiple perspectives as much as possible. Design critiques. So my message for you, Ellie, is to do more design critiques. Do more written critiques. Do more design critiques for you to practice or also improve how you critique. As well as improve your own style, your knowledge, deepen your knowledge in both design and in writing. That's our goal for today. All right.